Welcome back to another Charlotte Legacy League versus Mono Red versus Grixis Delver. I have Mark Ewig playing on Mono Red Burn and Vinicino playing Grixis Delver. They both kept 7, and looks like Mark is on the play. Plays a Mountain and suspends a Rift Bolt. Passes to Vinny. Vinny plays a Mishra's Bauble, which he looks at Mark's top card. Typically, you would look at your own top card if you have a fetch, so you can decide whether you want to draw it or not. It's like Mark only has 1 land. Vinny Thought Seizes a Chain Lightning. It takes 2 and go down to 18. Passes back to Mark. It's like Mark casts the Rift Bolt during his upkeep because it comes off as suspend. And Vinny chooses to force a will that. Like Mark has 3 like lava spikes in his hand. He plays like the 3 mana. If 1 damage has been taken by the opponent, or opponent's taken damage, he takes 3. It's like Vinny fetches for a volcanic island. Skewer the Critics is what the card that Mark displayed. Vinny plays a Delver and a Ponder. That is 4 lava spikes, it looks like. Jesus. Then he chooses to not shuffle and draw a card. Mark lava spikes, passes the turn back. It's like he's stuck on lands. Vinny flips a lightning bolt off the Delver. Attacks for 3. Plays another Delver and passes the turn. Mark plays another lava spike, taking Vinny down to, it's like 10. Vinny casts a Brainstorm into turn to make sure he lines up another flip Delver. Can't quite tell what he flipped there because the glare is amazing. It looks like the lightning bolt again. No information, so Vinny doesn't give anything up. Attacks for 6. Mark to 11. Vinny is at 7 off of the last lava spike. Two mana available. Vinny casts another Delver. Alright. Mark lava spikes Vinny, puts him down to 4. No flip off the Delver. He's at 11, so he attacks for 7. And Mark's at 4. Wow, just not enough lands for Mark. Had all the burn spells, just not enough lands. Alright. We're going to be going into game 2, but first you'll be able to see Vinny's deck. Not too much. Maybe a Hydroblast comes in. Mark leads off on a Swift Sphere. Passes the turn. Vinny's going to fetch off his polluted Delta for Volcanic. Plays a Delver Secrets, passes back to Mark. It's like Mark's got lands now. It should be a little bit of a different game here. Chain Lightning's Vinny. Vinny will go to 16. Have a Prowess trigger on the Swiss Sphere, taking 2 more damage. Put him in at 14. Vinny brainstorms. See if he can find an answer to this Swiss Sphere or any way to up his clock. Fighting against Burn is always tough because you're on a clock. Typically only get about 4 or 5 turns, if that. Then he flips Lightning Bolt, which is good. Now the Delver is a 3/2 flyer. Mark with 4 cards in hand. Doesn't attack. I guess he wants to block. Looks like Mark has a Price of Progress in his hand. And a bridge. Whew. That's tough. Force negation from Vinny. Pitching a Murktide. Bridge is exiled. They trade. Swiss Sphere being a 2/3 and the Delver being a 3/2. He brainstorms. Probably looking for another land. See if he finds it. He does. Plays a Deathrite. Oh, not a Deathrite Shaman. Dragon Rage Chandler. Been playing too much Vintage. Alright. Vinny's at 13. Another bridge. Jeez. That's tough. It's like the Chandler is still a 1/1, so he's able to attack. We've got Suspended Rift Bolt. 2 cards left in Mark's hand. One we know is a Price of Progress. Vinny bolts. Puts Wasteland in the graveyard off of the Surveil. Another land, which now makes Price Progress 6 damage, and he's at 13. Rift Bolt hits him for 3, that puts him at 10. Spins another Rift Bolt, passes the turn. So it's a Fire Blast and a Price of Progress. Yikes. It's like they play another Delver. Dragon Rage Chandler still a 1/1. Upkeep Rift Bolt comes off suspend, puts him at 7. Chain Lightning for 3. Floats a red and Fire Blast. Alright, that wraps up game 2. We're now 1-1. All tied up. They both keep 7, and Vinny's on the play. Leads off with a Ponder of a volcanic island. Mark leads on a mountain and a Swiss Sphere. Attacks Vinny for 1, passes back. Floated Delta. Interesting. Lop Spike. Putting Vinny to 16. Prowess trigger. Attacks for 2. Puts him at 14. Vinny has a bolt in his hand. He might be thinking to bolt it, but he could respond back with a bolt, causing a prowess trigger, and the bolt will still do damage to it, but it's a 3/4 at that point, so he takes another point of damage. And burns a bolt on it. Plays an Orchid Bowmaster, okay? Mark drops a card. And Vinny will block the Swift Spear, so he will stay at 15 with the Bowmaster taking the brunt of it. Wasteland. It's not very often you get to see a Grixis Delver deck on the defense, not being on the offense. Full. Yep. So he did have the bolt, and he chose correctly to not bolt it during combat or on Mark's turn when the prowess trigger was already there. Mark bolts Vinny, putting him down to 12. Then suspends the Rift Bolt. It's like Vinny ponders. Looking for anything to increase a clock. And he attacks for 1, putting Mark down to 18. And he's at 11 after fetch. I suspect we'll see a Murktide here. And we will. 1, 2, 3. Alright, so it is a 6/6 Murktide. And he paid 1 additional with the Wasteland. Rift Bolt for 3, putting him down to 8. Price of Progress. That would finish him off. Oh, and he has the Force of Will, so it doesn't get exiled. Skewers the Critics, does 3 to him. Puts him to 4. I think they're behind 3 points of damage here, but I may be mistaken. Attack for 7. And the Shieldred works at 11. He'll take 2, he'll go to 9. And ripped another Price of Progress off the top.